Okay, it should be live streaming to YouTube now. So welcome everyone. This is the Node.js release working group meeting. Today is the 22 September 22. And yeah, before we start with the agenda here, does anyone have any announcement, anything you'd like to share? Well, if not, there is the security release planned for today. So something to keep an eye on. And I guess we can start with the agenda here. So let me just make sure to share the meeting notes with the participants here so everybody can add themselves and taking notes and following with it. But yeah, the first item here is the plans for NPM 9. I know a lot of folks in this call had comments on there. Who would like to start on this topic here? Maybe give a quick introduction too.
I can try based on what I know, and people can correct any mistake I make. So Miles opened an issue. They're planning to cut NPM 9 in October, and there was an ask to try and get into Node 18. And to be honest, by the sounds of it, based on lifetimes and life cycles, we're probably going to have to land NPM 9 in Node 18 just so that we have something that can be supported for the lifetime of LTS, just based on what they can commit to. And I think most of the discussion is about how and when we land the NPM 9 update. We know it's going to be shipped in October. October is the same month that Node 18 goes LTS. So depending on the date, it might be difficult to get into there. And I guess another thread in that issue was sharing all the breaking changes. And I think at least from NPM's perspective, many of the breaking changes shouldn't really break people, based on how they expect to interact with a typical app. It's more around CIs and publishing and that kind of stuff and authentication, I think. So there is an ask to try and minimize the number of breaking changes and review them in advance. I think some of us have gone through them, and Matteo offered a list of ones that, would be deal breakers and would not be. And I think the discussion kind of rounded off there. We had a list of breaking changes. We think some of them shouldn't be too impactful. I think we still need to decide how and when we land it. Do we land it in 19 first and then backport it after some period of time, or do we try and rush and squeeze it in? I guess part of the main factor of that is we don't actually know the exact date it'll be released. Any other comments, feedback, notes to add, things I've missed?
Yeah, I believe I noted there in the discussion that initially I was thinking it was better to get it, the update before LTS, but Beth had some good arguments there to why it would be not the worst thing, right, to land it before 019, and there is kind of the expectation that it wouldn't break even if it's the current and it hasn't been promoted to LTS yet, which was a very good point that I kind of was missing when I first kind of proposed that we try to get it in before LTS.
Yeah, my main motivation for that is if we ship it in 19 and, when a new release comes out, a lot of people like to get hold of it and try it out. I'm hoping that it's not only the breaking changes, it's when you do such a significant code upgrade and change so many things, there's going to be unexpected side effects. That's, just what happens. And I just kind of think it would be better to catch those in current, where we can fix them very quickly, like every week or every 2 weeks, and hopefully that would allow NPM 9 to stabilize fairly quickly in current, and then we can get to a point we can backport it when we've caught all of the small side effects. And also, if there are any breaking changes, at that point we would know what people have hit most, and we can actually write in the changelog, hey, some users have reported issues with this specific thing. here is the workaround, here's how you go back, turn the option off or something like that.
Yeah, and from a technical point of view, I think like the breaking changes are minimal. And one good thing that I know they're trying to do from the NPM side is trying to limit all the breaking changes into providing configuration to kind of switch back to the old behavior in case it's breaking anyone. So that could be also a good having a way to basically revert functionality that is not working or breaking some workflow. That I think that's also very good at.
Yeah.
And reassuring.
Another good factor, well, it's not really a technical factor. It's just like if npm 9 is being shipped in October at the same time as Node 19, maybe there's an opportunity there to invite the npm team, to craft part of the release proposal to highlight what they want to highlight. And there's some joint efforts there to say, hey, look, Node's gone out with Node 19. It includes npm 9. Here's all the cool features in npm 9 or changes.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So all that said, did anyone else wanted to add something? Yeah, I'm pretty sure the conversation will continue on the PR, specifically on the breaking changes, on the specifics of each breaking change. I know there's some conversations still going on. But I guess with that, maybe we can take this item out of the agenda. I don't think there's nothing too productive really to be, or do anyone agree or disagree? Maybe we should still be tracking this item.
I guess one thing to clarify is are we going to try and rush it into 18, or would we like to?
Oh no, I believe there is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe everyone is kind of on board with the idea of landing 19 first and updating later on LTS.
Yeah, I think if there is consensus on that and we've given people time to object, then it might be worth just adding that statement to the notes or in the issue just to know what to expect. And that might take some pressure off of maybe even the npm team trying to get the release out in time before LTS and things like that. It's nice to clarify, this is the path we plan to take.
Yeah, I can comment there after the meeting here. I can comment. We discussed it here, and we have consensus on landing first on 19. Cool. So yeah, okay. Moving forward on the agenda here, there is the time zone. Sorry, I mean. Yeah, this imminent issue for Chilean users. So, Richard, I think you had some comments on it.
The date's gone, so I think the PR's landed on master. I don't think we've backported it yet to.
Yeah,
I think in 18, it's not going out in 16 or 14. I mean, we haven't had a 14 release or a 16 release. So I think we can we can cherry pick the PR as is into 16 because I think that has the same version of ICU now as current. 14 would probably need a backport, but I'd have to check. I can't remember what version of ICU Node 14 is running on. Yeah, I guess we could probably take it off the agenda now. There is a workaround if anyone needs the updated time zone stuff before it lands in a node release. Otherwise, I guess we just try and roll them out.
I'm curious, as this is no longer dependent on release scheduling, it's just we need the PR. I wonder if we could consider moving the issue to Node.js Node, maybe with an explicit ask to say, good first issue, can someone backport, time zone update to Node 14? It seemed quite effective when we moved the, time zone automation one over there and tagged it. Someone stepped up and did it, so maybe.
Yeah, and maybe that's an option to I can't remember if the automation can run on the earlier release lines. I mean, that might be an option to see if we can even run the automation and update the time zone information in Node 14 via the scripts.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't think there's much else to say about this now because there's no urgent rush to get that out, given that the date has already passed, that the changes came into effect.
Okay, so do anyone volunteer to move the issue to Node.js Node?
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool, awesome, thank you, Richard. So, okay. So next item here is the remove limitation on frequency of Semver minor LTS releases. So I know we had a discussion on that. I guess I had one question for the more experienced folks from the group that came up in the last comments in that thread, which is when putting together a proposal for an LTS, should we be cherry picking commits from the version above it, kind of like, so let's say I'm preparing 16. Should I be cherry picking from 18.x, or should I be cherry picking, like, should I be pointing branch diff to something else?
I think in the past, like, we always tend to cherry pick from current, and that's what we used against our branch diff, whatever the current release is into the 16 LTS branch. When we had the 2-week baking time requirement for LTS, sometimes folks would manually work out when, a commit was less than 2 weeks and stop it. But an easier way of doing it is using the tag, because you can look at, the last tagged release that was 2 weeks ago was this specific tag. So if I do my branch diff against that, I will pick up everything that was shipped. I think in theory, you get the same end result, and probably the tag is easier because you don't have to do the manual check of, did this land 2 weeks ago?
Right. So the tag for the latest current release, let's say for like the example of 16.
Depending on it'll be the tag of the current release that's at least 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
So if the current release had been in the last week, you wouldn't pick that one, you'd pick an earlier one.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm now I'm not sure if it's just me poorly reading the doc or if that's included in there. But if it's not, I'm gonna make sure I add some reminders.
I think it's very possible that the example branch diff command points to the .x branch rather than a tag. It might be worth mentioning, defaulting to using a tag.
Right, and also the 2 weeks, like that's kind of like you kind of have it in your mind, like a little bit of a.
I think also. I was just going to say, I think also, at least when I was starting releases, I found myself like not, I couldn't find the 2-week rule. If it's in the docs, it's not easily discoverable. So I kept having to kind of go back, or maybe even asking someone and thinking, okay, where's this like 2-week rule coming from? Like, when do I apply it, and what type of releases? And so maybe having that explicitly in the somewhere that it's a little more easily discoverable might be helpful too, if it's not already there.
Yeah, it should be in the README on the release repo. But yeah, if there's somewhere more obvious it should be, that I'm all for documenting it somewhere else.
Yeah, it seems to be buried at the bottom of the release README into the LTS section, but somewhere we could put it to make more prevailing. We have the release phases section, with the bullet points saying this is what current is and this is what active LTS means. I think adding it to the active LTS to say that bullet point to say in theory all the commits have been released on current for 2 weeks. Adding it right there near the top probably makes sense as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And I guess for this issue in particular, a month ago, more or less a month ago, we had this discussion and we kind of like summarized the changes we kind of were proposing. Let me just kind of go over them here. And like, if everyone is on board, like maybe we should just like start implementing these, like remove this from the agenda and just like start working on implementing these changes. But yeah, we would be keeping the tentatively monthly cadence for LTS. We would be removing the December minor limitation. So LTS releases would be kind of prepared similar fashion as the current releases. And add an extra row that allows for a 4 weeks period of baking time for commits that landed on current to land on LTS. Effectively, the releases will be running branch diff against the second to last published version of current. So yeah, so kind of increasing that period, I guess, from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, but removing the December minor limitation.
Yeah, there's
How?
two kind of separate things. I think one way of just choosing to go forward with dropping the December minor restriction would be, I think we're at the time we probably should start having a draft LTS schedule for Node 18. And if we add that to the table and just put the December minors in for each month, you know, put those in, then we've kind of done that just by look at our schedule. We now have a minor scheduled every month. So that's the plan, the draft. So that would be a way of moving forward on that one. I do think the 4 week baking time, I'm not sure how widely that suggestion has been broadcast and discussed and shared. So it might be worth us breaking that out as a separate topic to debate. I think I maybe suggested it. There was concern that if we're shipping Semver miners every month now, the features don't have as long to bake before they get released. And it was the kind of like another way of, you know, giving them more time to stabilize before they get shipped in LTS. And actually it's probably easier rather than us having to have different baking times for, you know, a patch versus a feature. And so that was where that suggestion came from, but maybe we want to break it out into a separate vote issue that we can thumbs up or something.
Right. Yeah. But also we can, I believe we have enough quorum here to maybe also just reach consensus here. Or we can continue on the issue, like whatever folks prefer. But I believe it sounds super reasonable, right? Like to increase a little bit. So basically, we will always be targeting the previous version of the current rather than the latest one that came out. So that it should give about a month, like baking time period for any Semver minor feature that landed on current before it gets to the first LTS release.
Yeah, and we always have the exceptions for like bug fixes and things like those would still apply. Like we're not going to make someone wait 4 weeks for an obvious known bug fix that we want to pull in. I kind of think it's easier for the rest of the collaborator base to understand that now, because we could just say, they're like, why has this feature not been shipped? And we're like, oh, we've not got a Semver minor scheduled until December. It's a bit confusing. They're like, why? Now we can just say, once it's been in current for a month, it will make it into the release if it lands cleanly. That seems much easier for us to communicate outwardly as well, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. We have enough folks here. I don't know if anyone has any concerns about, you know, would increasing that baking time make the patches too slow or, you know, have consequences? Or is it worth trying anyway?
I think it's worth trying. They're guidelines and we have some flexibility that if we suddenly need a patch, we can pull it forward earlier if need be. If for example, some test is completely broken and consistently failing the CI, we could pull like a test fix in ahead of schedule. But the point is to have a documented default policy, which is this is what will happen unless there's a good reason otherwise, and it would have to be a good reason.
Yeah, and in the case that there is, let's say, like I guess that's what you're mentioning, Matt, but like something that is also a fix, right? But it's tagged as a December minor. Like we can always kind of like make exceptions too, right? If it's for some very good reason, like needs a patching.
Yeah, I guess one thing to track is like how many exceptions do we start making, and if that number starts to be, so high that it's causing more work than what the old baking rule had, then we would reevaluate. But I think it's good to attempt that, and be easier, I think, all round to communicate, to process, to do.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so when are we starting to work on that LTS schedule for 18? You just mentioned that.
Normally around this time, like I copy and paste a table into, another table at the top, and I hide the other one behind a twisty. It would just
Right,
be
let me take a look.
Yeah, just copy and pasting and then
I
setting the
see.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's something I can take care of for sure. So, okay. Yeah, let's make sure. Yeah, let's keep in mind. If it's not me, whoever gets to update in that table, keep in mind then adding tentative minors for each month. And I think that will do it for trying to communicate to the rest of the collaborators at least. But then, yeah, I see Mike also noted it's a good idea to document the second to last current release as a reference. That's I agree.
I guess with that, it could be less than a month, and that like that if we had some rapid security releases and then followed up by a
Right.
bug release, that could be as soon as a week. Is that a problem? I don't know.
I would not count a security release there. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
But
I
even in
guess
the
it depends
past,
how long the release proposal stays open.
That's true. Yeah.
but it has happened in the past that we kind of cut two current releases like in a space of a week because of reasons. Maybe one of the issues, one of the releases got postponed a little bit. The other one kind of gets started on time. Then like there might be just a week. In that case, should we still kind of want to try and enforce the 1 month baking time?
I guess like for all of us here, I'm sure based on our judgment, we would look at that and be like, oh, this was an exceptional case. We did 2 releases in the same week. So actually I should branch off the last scheduled release or second to last scheduled release that we plan to do. But it's just what's the easiest way of putting it in instructions such that we're consistent? And is that using Michael's statement that he suggests or including the 1 month mention? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we can write 1 month if that's easier to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, like having in mind the second to last, like should kind of cover 90% of the time.
Yeah, in the general case, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, in the general case, yeah.
We can even add that statement. And you could say, like, generally, you should be able to run branch diff from the second to last tag, but please check it was around a month ago. That seems fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, let's try to document capture that. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on here then to the next item. this major release rotation, which I think has.
We're doing it, aren't we? Kind of ish.
Yeah. Like we kind of solved it for the next one, right? Like me and Rafael were taking care of 19, right? But from the kind of more overall points you were making there, like, is there anything you think we still need to
Yeah,
work on?
the thing I was like, hey, would it be nice if we could create a table and people could put their name next to it as early as, you know, a year in advance? But actually that's probably unlikely because not many of us know what we are doing in 3 months' time. So I think the best way to solve it is just to add some policy to our major release guidance to say in the quarter before the next major, we will decide who is doing the major release. That seems fair. Like just set a deadline to say 3 months before the release, we will have agreed who is doing it or who the stewards are, because they could be multiple, like in this case. And I think that covers it, just so we know to do it.
Yeah, do we also want to maybe kind of encourage people pairing like me and Rafael are doing for this one? I personally feel super good about it, kind of like reassures me having someone to cover in case something.
Yeah, the more we reduce our bus factor and the more the knowledge is spread and the less stress between one person, the better, all good.
Yeah.
Backup makes complete sense because then things are less likely to slip it in case of emergency.
Yeah, particularly, with the major, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where we would be documenting this or.
Yeah, there might be some. I think some of the policy around major releases has creeped into the releases MD guide. So we might have to take some time to try and pull out the policy from the instructions and get agreement on both. A good time to do that would be during or shortly after the period of you going through the releases, because I'm sure you have lots to add and lots that's missing, so it'd be a good time to reevaluate.
Cool. Anyone else wanted to add something?
Oh, good.
Cool. Yeah, otherwise the remaining items here are the scheduling for upcoming releases. Oh, I just realized I haven't shared my screen as I was kind of planning to do in the beginning. Maybe I should do now for the tables so that I can at least talk over the actual schedule here. Let me see.
While you're bringing that up, there is an issue in build that I've opened and need to probably discuss here. We've been informed that the AX machines we're using, they want to do some system maintenance, which involves taking the machines down sometime between the 26th of September and the sometime in the beginning of October. I've lost it now. Where is it? But I wasn't sure what's happened to the. So when we look at the plans, it'll be good to confirm what the dates are, because if we've got releases planned in that period, I'll communicate that to the folks at Ozil that are doing the maintenance and see if we can schedule around that. Because otherwise, not having the AX machines is always going to prevent us testing or building binaries on that platform.
Yeah, but wait. Basically, there are two things that I would like to share here. The first one is that in that plan, it's missing the security release that will be between the 18.9.0 and 18.10. And I was in the schedule, we were planning to have a regular release 20 of this month, but due to the security release, I won't be able to do it. So I postponed it to 27. That fits perfectly in the day that AX machine will not be stable?
Well,
So-
we don't know. So they've given us a rough period, but they said the exact date hasn't been confirmed. And if we can, the sooner we can go back to them and say we would like to have these machines available for the release on this date. You know, for example, if the release was going to be on the 27th, then maybe we can push the AX maintenance to later in that week. So it would still be in the period that they've earmarked, but it would avoid. So if we do releases at the beginning of that period and push the maintenance into after the release, you know, that's something we can try and negotiate with the team at Ozil looking after the machines. It was more kind of, if we know them, you know, if these are the dates that we've confirmed that we want to do releases on, see if we can schedule the maintenance around that.
Yeah, I mean, I was really planning to release it 2027. If the secret release comes today, as expected, tomorrow I will create the proposal for the next regular release, and I will take at least 1 day of baking time to run CIs and so on. And 27, I'm planning to release it.
Okay.
So to confirm, Richard, what is the window of time?
Give me a second.
I will include the secret release to the table as well. Okay.
So the window we were given is between the 26th of September and the 6th of October, but it's not that the machines are out for that entire period. What they're saying is at some point in that period, they want to do the maintenance. And we're asking, are there dates that we need those machines up on? And then, so this was coming back to I'm looking at the schedule, but then I'm aware that there was some discussion between Raphael and Daniel about shuffling around releases because of the security release.
Right. Yeah. Let's go over to the schedule here, and then at the end of it, I think you might have the answer, Richard.
Yeah, that's what I want. At the end of this meeting, I want dates for in that period. What dates are we planning releases for? And then I'll email back to Ozil and say these are dates that we require that we would like those machines available for. So we're happy for the maintenance to occur outside of those dates, but for these dates, we really want them.
Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I have 18 here. And like Raphael said, I updated the date here to show 27, and I see that Raphael just added the security here. So I think we're all booked for, and Danielle, you still planning this one early October?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this sounds great for 18, and yeah, maybe even before 18, like there's also 19, Raphael, that is planned. Maybe if we wanna.
Just one thing that I would like to share, that is the time between the next release that we'll be doing and the release that Daniel will be doing is like very small. Maybe should we postpone it too?
So I think you had said you were preparing when this Friday? No.
Yeah, so we prepare tomorrow. Yeah.
So it would still be, I think, like 10, 11 days. So it's not too bad. But yeah, I'm happy to push it out also. I'm good with either one, because then that adds another week of commits that we could put in the next 18. So either one's fine, I think.
Okay. So yeah, we can see in the day of the release maybe.
Sure. One thing just we've tended to consider around that time is the LTS date, and we try not to cut a new 18 with lots and lots of commits very close to the LTS date, because then we don't have much time to, fix things before we do the LTS transition release, which is just a single commit. So I'm still pushing back a week would be like completely fine if that makes more sense to pick up a few more commits. But if it got within 2 weeks of the LTS date, we probably want to preserve the current baking rules and things and not schedule anything within 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, and regarding the next major release, yeah, we have been updating the proposal. We still need to do a bunch of work, like create content about the notable changes and the blog post and so on, I guess. And as I said before, I will be able to do it until the 28th of this month. Then I will travel. I mean, I can do it, but I won't be able to do it all day. I will have just a few slots, so it would be great to coordinate, like, at least the content that we want to share about the next major release, right?
Yeah, I'll try to help out too with getting some of the notable changes, maybe getting to some of the authors and asking them for more prepared, like explaining. I know it's really nice when you have like more descriptive, like
that stuff
release notes.
always tends to be a bit of cat herding and trying to find people that are willing to contribute sections. And maybe as an FYI, probably in a couple of weeks, we should put the TSC just to be aware that the proposal's opened and we're looking for notable changes, or just mention it in the section so they can volunteer to do things in. Just going back to the Node 18 schedule, one thing that is relevant to the major release is the current release before it goes LTS is the tag that you run branch diff on for the major release. That's probably really hard to grok, by the way, I've just explained it, but Danielle's release in October will be what you use as your branch diff for the major, because you compare between the latest 18
Right.
release and 19, what's on 19. So that's why timings can get a bit confusing. I think at one point they were shipped on the same day, so I was like having to rerun branch diff very close in time. So it was a bit complicated. So just to be aware.
Okay. Yeah, and Raphael, one thing I like to mention that I'll be around to promote the 19 release, so you don't have to worry about that, because I know you'll be traveling. So I can do the promotion, and I know you open the PR, and we'll be kind of like taking turns on updating the proposal until then. But yeah, I can also help out with the notes and the notable changes, trying to get more.
Yeah, once I have the proposal ready for the next regular release, I will have more time to at least work in the notable change and so on, help you to get it ready to October.
One thing that I'm not sure if it was mentioned in the release guide is it's worth running SitGym on the proposal compared to 18 to see, see if there's any massive breakages shown in the ecosystem.
Right.
And try it.
Yeah, actually, we still need to start releasing the RC, right?
Yes. Yeah, around this time. Yeah.
Okay.
Do the first one.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah. I'll try to get to updating the proposal next week. Raphael, we can sync on it, but I'll try to get to it next week, and then I can make an RC version as part of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, we can move to the 16 release line here. Which I see there is a plan release for this month with no releaser yet.
I could propose myself.
Awesome.
I do not have time to prepare it, but be aware that I already pushed a lot of commits on the staging branch.
Good. Thank
So
you.
if you want, you can just prepare a proposal from staging without cherry picking anything more. There's already a lot of content.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Always nice to learn that. So yeah, and I guess with the security releases coming out, it's probably part of the guide there, but it's seeing that we're all here. Once the security release goes out, do we just repaste the entire staging branch on top of the latest security release tag?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, which was kind of logic, but I was just wanted to confirm. Thank you. And 14.
Yeah,
do we
actually,
still have a-
actually, there's one question I have.
Sure.
I did the last security release for 18, but I don't remember. We need to push all the change that we did for the 18 to the main as well, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that I missed it in the last moment. I need to take note.
Yeah. What
Right, so it's just 18, not the other release lines.
Yes.
Because the rest is backport, so wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, what I tend to do is check out main on the private repo and go into the commits that have landed in the 18 proposal and cherry pick them because they've got all the metadata. You can just it's exactly the same commit. You can cherry pick and run the tests, push.
Yeah, once it's released, right?
Yeah, you can cherry pick them onto the private main branch in advance if you want to get prepped, but yeah.
Okay.
Just don't push it to the public repo.
Public, yeah.
Yeah, I'll try.
Yes. And the good thing is doing it to private in advance, you get the actions runs. If we have actions minutes left, they should run and give us some feedback.
I don't think we do have action minutes left, and I don't know who we talk to about that. Because I don't know who's in charge of the. I mean, I guess it's the TSC, but I don't know who exactly is responsible. You know, who's set up the Node private account in GitHub, and who has contacts to try and get those minutes extended if possible. But I have seen a message saying we've run out of action minutes until like 13th of October. So yeah, I think we're not getting any GitHub action runs in the private repo at the moment.
I'm sure there's an existing issue. Well, we've hit this before and someone raised something saying we've run out of credits, and I can't remember who ended up fixing that for us.
I want to say it's probably been Miles.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Do we have an issue tracking that? Or I mean, I can try to reach out to Miles and talk about it, but it's good if we have an issue to reference.
I'm not aware there's been an issue opened. I just, because I'm on the TSC, we get the automated emails from GitHub saying you've reached 100% of your allotment.
Right. Where would be the best place to put such an issue? Like, would be the build repo or TSC or release?
You can do it in the TSC or in Node.js private. Either of those two. I mean, if as long as you don't leak anything in the private stuff, put it in the TSC repo or admin. One of those two. Yes. I mean, it's effectively just saying we've run out of minutes because the Node.js private is a private organization. Sorry, it's on a private repo, so the minutes aren't free.
Okay. Yeah, I can try to follow up on that. So for 14 release line here, we still had one. How does it work now that it's maintenance? Is it just we just have a tentative here in case we want to put together a release, or we actually plan for it in advance?
We don't tend to specifically plan. We tend to build up some things on staging, and when it gets to the point of maybe it's sat there for 2 months, we're like, yeah, we should just ship these out. Normally what happens is we start gradually building up backports and landing them, and then something more, urgent pops up that drives us to ship a release and get them out. So we could get more decisive about what we want to do. Maybe we should aim to do at least one every quarter if there's anything on the staging branch. If there's nothing on the staging branch, we don't do one. But just so things aren't waiting for like 6 months, maybe that's a fair thing to do. But generally it's been ad hoc and our call, and whenever there's something warranting release, which is quite hard to define.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. Yeah. So it's more on the collaborators kind of need to be more active about backporting things if they actually want to see it landing in a maintenance release.
I kind of think they're somewhat discouraged by policy from doing that, because our policy is like, we only really want, in maintenance releases, we only really want things that are, really causing problems or really need to be fixed. So people don't tend to go to the effort unless they really are, want the drive of cross-version compatibility or something.
Yeah, or if it's really bug and like they wanted to see it across the finish line. Yes.
Yeah. So, but we can be driven by collaborators on that. And
okay, yeah, I was wondering when was this last
Oh, it didn't go out.
quarterly release?
I was waiting
Oh.
for the security release. Because there's
Okay.
only one, or last I checked, there was only one backport. And yeah, I just didn't want to put an entire release out before there was a security release. So I was just waiting for after the next one.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, just waiting for that. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So probably probably pushing to
Probably
October.
October.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me update it. Okay. Yeah, and I think with that, well, is there anything else we're getting here? Because I think that brings us to the end of the agenda.
Did we look at doing 18 LTS releases, or we're just going to do that offline? So the
Yeah, no,
18 plan runs up to the LTS release, but then we've got nothing planned after that at the moment.
Yeah, I was planning to do on doing it offline, or
Okay,
yeah,
that's
probably. It'd probably be nice to pair with someone, like if someone wants to take some time to help out. It's probably a very good idea. But
yeah,
we're running out of time here already.
Sure. Yeah. I guess we just need to schedule each month. And we can do X, XX. We probably don't need to be so prescriptive on which exact week in the month it gets released. Maybe just whenever we have time or volunteers.
Sure.
We'll also need a 19. Is that true? Do we have plans for current? I can't remember.
Yeah. I was going to ask about it. When do we create one release schedule for 19?
It was normally just around the time I started working on the proposal. It's not written down.
Okay.
Another thing that's not written down that we should probably write down and probably put templates so you don't have to go digging around and copying from old ones. But what I tended to do is use Excel or Sheets or whatever, set the release date, add 2 weeks, and then just drag it all the way down to copy 2-week intervals for the rest of the year and then paste it in. So
it must be possible to write a GitHub action for that.
I'm sure there is, but 30 seconds of Excel versus having to code. I went for the easy.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So I might, yeah, that might be a good thing for like me, Raphael, to maybe pair with some of you, maybe Beth, like if you have time,
Yeah.
then we can, yeah, just spreading the knowledge, right? Like sharing the, the knowledge. Awesome. Did anyone have anything else want to talk about?
One thing, there was some comments, I think release should have been added in it, or at least LTS, around happy eyeballs support in Node 18, and there seems to be a drive to get it into 18 before it goes to LTS. Does that infer that it's a potentially breaking change, and therefore we want it in sooner?
I think the argument is that the change that stopped us reordering addresses from DNS lookups.
Yep.
So prior to Node 18, we always used to return IPv4 addresses ahead of IPv6 addresses. And now Node 18 currently just returns them in the order the operating system returns them in, which means you can get an IPv6 address, even if, so if your DNS lookups return an IPv6 address first, you'll get that even if you actually have no route to that IPv6 address through your local network configuration. So the argument is the happy eyeballs is a sort of amelioration for that, where it will try the IPv6 address, and if that doesn't work, it will fall back to the IPv4 equivalent. So it could be argued that it's like a bug fix or a,
Okay.
yeah. It kind of looks okay, but at the moment it's failing tests, so we kind of need those tests fixed before it can merge. But yeah, it's I'd be okay with it going into 18 before it drops into LTS, providing that the tests are all clean, which they're not at the moment.
I guess that's just our response. It's like the last 18 release is going to be, before LTS is going to be around or about the 4th of October. If it lands by then, sure, we'll include it. But if it doesn't,
I'd also be happy to land it on a later December minor. But yeah, I can see the argument that once it goes LTS, there might be more people moving up to it from say Node 16, so they'll trip over this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully it just lands in time and it ends up picked up naturally by either Raphael or Danielle's upcoming release, and all will be fine. But
hopefully.
So is there already a PR?
There is a PR, yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Anything else? Okay. Well, with that, I'm gonna end the meeting here. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Bye. Take care.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.